Hey everyone, how's it going? Dustin from Untitled Studios. Happy to be back. It has been a long time since I streamed video. I need to get some paint work done here on the table. Just need to make some minor adjustments to my setup because it's been a bit. I've tried to get a little bit better at the camera angle for y'all. Hopefully you like this angle better. I had some minor complaints about some of the other angles I was using, so I'm trying to do some things to fix that. Bear with me as I adjust a few things around. Like I said, trying to do a little bit different to my setup. I have a temporary new overhead angle here that should be more straight down, give you more of a view of what I am actually working on as I work on it here. So we will see how things go from there, and get to painting here soon. Obviously, this is the miniature I'm going to be painting today. Just need to make a quick camera adjustment. It appears that some settings aren't wanting to cooperate, so let's see if I can get that in better focus here. I'm going to try to do this without using autofocus for the first time. So I had some complaints about that, so let me do some quick testing here. Really hoping to be able to get you guys a better view of everything that's going on since I can. So hopefully that'll be better, except I've been turned on a couple of other settings. Right? Like I said, still getting it dialed in. It has been a couple of months since I have been on here, so if you're just joining me, thank you so much for joining me. I think I've got it. Let's turn some exposure down. Ooh, no, that was better. Okay, let's try that. Let's see what happens. That is much better, it looks like. If you're watching, let me know. Post something in the chat. Let me know that you are watching. Let me check on just a couple of things here, and we'll get to rocking and rolling. Make sure that this link got shared out so that people know to join it. Alright. I don't know if you're out there. If you're out there, drop a message in the chat, let me know. Just a reminder that the YouTube chat is minorly delayed, so if you post me something and I don't respond to you right away, it's because I probably haven't seen it yet. So, or I have responded and it's just taking a second for it to pick up. Smoothing out and put a fresh sheet on this new Army Painter wet palette that I got. If you haven't already, go check out my review on it. I really do like this product. Just getting the paper smoothed out, so it's been great for me. I cannot complain. Alright, so let's go ahead and get to rocking. I've got a couple of my brushes here. I've got my Doc miniature. This is the last miniature I need to paint for this corset. I have some seams I need to get off of here though. So, you get to see how I do that. Freebie on the stream. I have a little scraper. It looks like I've got a seam here. Probably from where I applied some the plastic cement that I used. So, that little bit shouldn't impact a whole lot. And then I have I don't know if you can see that on there, I have an open seam right there. And so we're going to, it appears to be small enough that I'll be able to use my matte varnish trick on there. So I've got some matte varnish, old cheapy palette. Let me know if the music's too loud, how the microphone sounds, because like I said, I haven't streamed in a minute, so I'm getting back to having things set. I was saying, if the camera shakes, I do apologize. I have a very temporary overhead setup going on here. because I'm gonna build an overhead rig soon, but I didn't get out of the hardware store yet. So. Anyways, what I'm doing here is I'm taking some. Well, I'm putting my head on my lamp first, but I'm taking some matte varnish. I'm gonna brush it in that seam there and see if I can fill it down a little bit. So. I'll give that a moment to dry. Do a quick once over. There's some scrapings left over. As far as brushes go, I'm using a Army Painter Regiment brush. So that seems to serve me well, and I also use some Army Painter detail brushes. And, like I said, they work for me well. So we're going to try to do this without washes, and we're going to start with our green tones. I'm trying to decide exactly how deep of a green I want to go with. Do I want to go with the angel green, the goblin green, or the Greenskin? And I think what I'll do is we're going to go with a pretty deep green. Let's see. Maybe not. I think we'll start with this Greenskin. And actually, what we'll probably do is start with Greenskin and end up mixing in some of this jungle green for our highlights, and that'll give us some nice transitions there. So, get my wet palette set up there. I was saying this is my new Army Painter wet palette. If you haven't had a chance to check out my review of that, it is on my channel, and you can see that. Shake the crap out of this Greenskin paint. And let's get ready to check on that matte varnish real quick. See how we go. It doesn't take very long to dry. I'll put one more quick coat on there and then we'll set this aside. It seems to have filled that gap fairly nicely and solved the problem that I had there. Let me know, like I said, how the stream quality is looking on your end, and how things are going there. Let me get myself a clean cutting mat down, just in case. Also helps me know where my streaming window is. It's got a couple of black lines on there because my old mount used to sit in that spot, or I tested a mount that would sit in that spot for a second. The two legs would, and it just wasn't working for me. It was way too close, and I had an issue with honestly bumping into it a whole bunch, so I had to come up with an alternative. Alright, let's get to rocking. So we've got our Greenskin. Smooth it out a couple of wrinkles on there. And we're going to go ahead and put that right on our wet palette right here. Checking on, just looking at color scheme to try to see how I'm going to paint this guy real fast. Alright, back to what I was doing. let's get our green put down. So the wet palette should be able to pull enough water through that I don't have to worry about thinning my paints too much. Looks like it's pulling a little bit too much water through, maybe. Or I just didn't mix it well enough. If you don't mix the Army Painter paints well enough, they're going to be thin and you'll get difficult coverage. So I haven't used this color recently, so it probably needed a little bit more mixing. It's going to take me a minute to get used to this overhead view, so bear with me if I end up out of cam a little bit. I do apologize. And like I was saying, I think I may have mentioned this or started this story like 3 times and I haven't finished it quite yet. If the camera shakes, I do apologize. I've got like a cheapy $5 or dollar store quote-unquote cell phone mount. It's like a snake mount that is clipped onto something and holding my webcam up, which is, it shakes a little bit when I move my desk around or if I bump my desk too hard. So prior to this video, I took this miniature, I blew it out of my airbrush, or turned on my airbrush and blew some primer on there, and let that dry. I actually timed it a couple of days ago, so that should give it plenty of time to dry. And I do a Xenophobe prime. It makes it easier for me to see highlights, shadows, and the likes, so I can make sure that I know just about what I'm painting, but realistically I end up painting over most of it. But I do think it helps with the saturation of the colors when you're applying it onto the picture. So, and for those not familiar, maybe you're newer to the painting hobby, first off I want to say thanks for joining us with this hobby. It's a wonderful thing. I enjoy it. But second is Xenophobe highlighting is a technique that some painters use to prime their miniatures or do different things. But for priming, basically what you do is you base coat the whole model black, and then you let that dry, or you prime that whole model black, not base coat. But you let that dry, and once it dries, you take a spray. You can do this with spray cans, or you can do it with an airbrush. I find it easier with an airbrush, but I know not everybody has access to an airbrush, so you take it, and you can do it in a couple different stages, and you spray a lighter color from an angle that would represent the sun or your lighting source being at its zenith, so the highest point. That's why it's called Gunmetal highlighting. So in this instance, all of my Crisis Protocol miniatures are getting lighting from directly above. But if you're doing some object source lighting or something, you could use a different angle. Anyway, so I've primed those prior to this. I do mine in 3 stages. I do a black, and then from about 45 degrees I do a gray, and then from directly above I do a white, or directly from whichever angle the light is going to be coming from the brightest. If you're just joining us, thanks for stopping by. It's been a couple of months since I streamed. I've been itching to get back to it, and I figured what better opportunity here to paint the last miniature for my Marble Crisis Protocol core set. Thanks, Brandon. It works, and I have rocks in there. It makes it a little bit heavier. I am a cheap painter. I will DIY everything I can. I do have some nice fancy 3D printed ones that I've done. This is the one that I had this guy stuck to. So, and he's just stuck onto this thing with some poster tack, blue tack, some, depending on where you're in the world, it's called different things, but some tacky putty. I kind of forgot I was using a medicine bottle as a handle. It's just become so natural for me. We're going to try to paint this guy without any washes. That's something that I've been doing with all of my Marvel Crisis Protocol miniatures, is attempting to do all these without using washes. Not that washes are a bad thing, but it forces me to play with the contrast more. So if you haven't checked out all of the Crisis Protocol minis that I have been painting, they are linked on my main Facebook page. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, Jagged Brush Studios across all of those. They're in the Facebook groups. I tend to spam them pretty well. So, like I said, sorry if I end up painting off stream for a second. I'm readjusting to painting on camera since it's been a minute. We're going to let that dry for a moment. Get the brush in all rinsey rinse. And we're going to figure out what we're going to do for our yellow colors. So I have this Daemonic Yellow, but I really like how bright of a yellow it is. So I think that's going to be my main yellow color. We'll highlight up with a blonde a little bit higher than that. But for the base coat, since we're not going to be washing, we need to go a little bit darker. So I think we're actually going to start with a nice brown color, and probably a couple of paints here. So we'll probably start with a leather brown. Putting down a nice brown coat makes it easier to paint that yellow one. So all my Army Painter paints, I put an agitator bottle in there, or a ball. There's stainless steel. What that does is it helps mix the paint. This one's almost empty, so it's much louder than it should be. And then I try to separate my paints on my palette by colors, or general colors, so that it makes blending easier later. Adjust my palette cam. It is way too far away from me. Yeah, Brandon, I've done no washes with all of the Crisis Protocol miniatures to this point. So, what I do is I start with a darker color than what I want it to be, or I start with my base coat is the color that I want my shadows to end up being. And then it just takes lots of layers of different colors. So that's why we're starting with that brown here. On this leather brown as the base coat for my yellows. I know it seems counterintuitive to start with something that's not yellow, but some of this journey that I take with you guys while I'm painting, I'm learning also, so I feel like I've been reliant on washes to do some of the work that I should be learning how to do, or I should be able to do at this point in my painting journey, so I stopped using them for this. Of course, that doesn't mean I won't use them in the future, and I should say there are certain things that I wash. So if you go on my Facebook page and look at my Modoc miniature, I used wash on his teeth because it just made sense to do so. But as far as washing the entirety of the miniature, I'm skipping them for these miniatures. But if you go back and watch some of my older painting stuff, I definitely use my washes. Especially when I'm trying to batch paint miniatures. The reason I'm doing it on these guys is they're one-offs, so I'm not trying to get a whole bunch of stormtroopers out the door or something like that. I'm just having to do one miniature that I can really focus on. So. Alright, so I know his gloves are yellow. Nice. I'm glad people are still watching my stuff. I was hoping I wasn't falling out of favor since I haven't been streaming for a while. Next up on my paint list after this is going to be short triggers. I did short triggers already. Is going to be dewbacks. So I've got 7 of them I need to paint, and we're going to do at least 1 or 2 of those on stream. Buddy wants me to do some in a unique paint scheme for him, but I will probably paint the first ones are going to be Canon colors. So right now we're just putting these base coats on. We're not trying to be super not sloppy. If we make a slight mistake, we'll let it dry and I'll come back and paint over it with our base coat color. All of these yellow areas that would be yellow on him, we're going to cover them with that brown that we're using. So, one of the things I like about this miniature is his eyes are covered. Which, much like everybody else, eyes give me fits. I end up painting him 4 or 5 times sometimes. I wish I had an easy... I mean, I have a trick to get him to look okay, but they're not something that I've been majorly good at. If I had to say they're one of my weaknesses that I have. So, between that and the random shakes that I get every once in a while. We are going to use true metallic metals, so regular metallic paint on all the metal parts. I don't have it in me to do NMM. And I haven't done it on any of the other miniatures in this set, so I feel like it would be out of place if I did so. Well, that's not true. I kind of did NMM on Modoc, but it's because I went with a yellow on his chair rather than a gold color, because I felt like the gold would just be too overwhelming. Still waiting on some areas of that green to dry, so we'll go back and cover up some of this brown again. 2 thin coats that don't obscure any details are better than 1 thick coat that does. I know ideally you would get complete coverage in 1 paint coat, but it doesn't always happen. So. grab some water for my paint. I have a double weld paint thing. As you can tell, one of them is for cleaning brushes and one is for clean water, so it comes in super handy. If you would like to get something like that, you can get it from most craft stores. Sure if we'll be able to finish this guy tonight. We'll see what we can do to get it done, since I got a late start to the stream. I'm trying to get everything up and running for the first time in a while. Oops, got a little bit of brown on his belly. We'll get that cleaned up once it dries. While our brown and green's dry, I'm going to grab my gunmetal, and we're going to paint his arms and stuff. I just need to check on my reference photo real fast. Gunmetal. Got a little bit more than I wanted out there. And for those that are catching this later, I will list all of, or that are watching now and want a list of the paints I used on this, I will list them all in the photo description once this saves after the stream. So you don't have to worry about trying to keep up or keep a notebook, although if you want to, that's cool too. Watered it down just a touch too much. The other thing that Xenophobe Highlighting helps is if you use a little bit thinner metallic wash, you'll get some natural highlights to it. Not wash, Xenophobe Prime. You'll get some natural highlights to it without having to resort to using a black wash. Nothing wrong with black washes, I do it on most of my miniatures. Like I said, except for this series, because sometimes I'm a masochist, apparently. Although I've been really happy with the results I've been able to get without using washes on, like, especially Captain America that I did. If you saw my Hulk, there was no washes on there, but that was all done with an airbrush. The skin tones. The airbrush made it really easy to use and get those blends down the way that I wanted them. Alright, one arm done. So Brandon, how did you find me if you're still here? I assume you've found my stuff through the Legion group that I used to spam consistently. Sorry, Brandon. I'll turn it down. Hopefully that helps. Let me know if the music is better. I'm not quite sure why my microphone is acting so quiet, because it shouldn't be. Let me know if that's better. Let's see if I can turn my mic up just a touch. Let's see if that helps. Alright. Mic's turned up. Music should be turned down. Let me know if I'm too loud. Yeah, so I was wondering how you found me. And I was assuming you probably found me in one of the Legion groups that I used to spam consistently when I was doing Legion stuff almost constantly. Painting Doc Ock's arms. So when I said I wasn't going to wash him, the only thing I probably will wash is going to be the metallics. Because highlighting true metallics is a little bit tough. If one of the viewers out there could let me know how the video quality looks. Brendan just gave me some feedback on the audio quality, which is, honestly, that's been something I've struggled with since day one, is audio levels. But like I said, hoping that that resolved some of it. Because it should be streaming in 1080p. Ah, gotcha. I've done a couple. So I did how to paint Bosk on Facebook. When I first started streaming, I started on Facebook. Was just trying to use it because I had an organic audience there already. And so I was like, well, I'll just do Facebook video. Well, Facebook's streaming platform is not the best. They have some copyright issues, like the music that's all playing here is all copyright-free stuff. Through Pretzel Rocks, it's made for streamers, and you've got permission to use all of it. Well, Facebook was muting my videos because they were saying I was using copyrighted materials. So I switched to YouTube, and I copied my videos from Facebook to YouTube. And I think one of them was Bosk. And then, awesome. And one of those ones I did on Facebook, I think, was Bosk, and I wasn't happy with the video quality on it, so I had to paint more Bosks anyways, and so I went ahead and did a new video for it. Welcome to everybody who's just joining us. Hopefully you're enjoying the stream tonight. Just a chill stream as we paint Doc Ock from Marvel's Crisis Protocol, a newer game that came out, published by, or made by Atomic Mass Games, and being distributed by Asmodee. I think that's how it's pronounced. I've been having a ton of fun with it. It's an easy little skirmish style game, I guess you could call it. Small, low model count. I've played it once or twice now, had a ton of fun with it. I bought into it to play with my son, who is 8, who is getting into gaming heavily, and wants to play war games with me, but can't grasp all the rules. He can play Star Wars Legion with me with guidance. He has his own Star Wars Legion army that I built for him and painted for him last Christmas. And this is much simpler than Legion. Although I should probably pop out the new Legion 500 point format with him. He'd probably be able to handle that one a little bit more. But this is super easy to grasp and a ton of fun, and you get some super cinematic moments. The last game that I played against him, Spider-Man picked up and threw Baron Zemo, who had 1 hit point left, into Red Skull, and knocked out Baron Zemo and did 2 points of damage to Red Skull, and then Spider-Man pulled Red Skull off the objective and flew him himself to win the game. It was pretty amazing and felt very much like and by fly I meant he kind of ran in there and took the objective from Red Skull to win the game. And it really felt like a moment out of a movie, so I was really happy with that. So he and I have played 2 games on my custom built terrain board, which I just don't have the streaming setup to do terrain builds on stream. Otherwise I'd consider it. But it was a ton of fun. So, and the nice thing is you don't need a ton of miniatures to play. So, if you wanted to play organized play of some sort, you really only need 10 models. All right. Let's go ahead and get another coat on our greens real quick while we're sitting here. I may have to get some more green out of the pot. And we're going to look for anywhere that we need to do any touch-ups here. So, like I had a little tiny bit of brown right along this glove that washed over. And since we're not using washes, we got to be a little bit careful to clean up any of those messes. And so the way I do that is I'll honestly keep cautiously doing brush strokes in that little area until I cover up what my mistake was. And like, if you go back into something that you were trying to fix and you cover up some brown on accident in this instance, it's no big deal. This is the base coat, you can still fix it. It's when we get to highlighting that you gotta be a little more careful. So like right along this metal belt here, I'm trying to get to an angle you can see it, but right along this metal belt I got some metallic on his shirt, whatever you want to call it. And I noticed right under here I completely missed his shirt. So, which model is my favorite so far? I haven't played with Hulk or MODOK yet. They weren't even put together when my son and I played. Out of the very base core set, Baron Zemo does work. He's amazing. But I also really enjoyed Spider-Man. So one game we played the Learn to Play game out of the core rule set. And then the second game, we set up our own thing, and he wanted to be all villains, and I played all heroes. So, Captain America literally did nothing. It went on my hero team. He went and stood in the middle of the field, and people avoided him. So, I didn't get the chance to see what he did. Captain Marvel dropped Ultron from full to dazed and a 1 rocket punch. So that was pretty cool. And then had enough power left over to turn around and rocket punch Crossbones. So I like them. I think they're all great for different things, but I would have to say right now Baron Zemo and Spider-Man are pretty close. Not because I'm not a huge Spider-Man fan, but as far as a model goes, he was a fun character to play. If I had to pick who is my favorite because it's Marvel, I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of any of the characters in the core set. I know they tried to pick some popular ones there. I lied. Iron Man in the game that I played against my son did do a shield blast with Captain America. So there was that, but that was literally the only real thing Captain America did all game. So I'm waiting for. I like Thor. He's coming out soon. I like Deadpool. I'm hoping he comes. Deadpool's my favorite superhero. Has been since I was a child. Hoping he comes out or is at least announced soon. I kind of like Green Goblin's coming, even though I'm not a huge Spider-Man fanboy. I like Green Goblin as a character. The one I had the most fun painting was probably Hulk, as far as painting went. And MODOK. Close tie, for different reasons. Hulk let me play with a lot of different color of skin tones, because he's green. Just a quick update on what we're doing for everybody here. We're still base coating this guy, but we're getting close to being done there. And I know if you're just joining us, you missed why I did brown instead of yellow. Brown is going to be our base color for our yellow. And it's much easier to paint yellow on top of brown than it is to paint yellow on top of white or black. So it gives us a good base coat to go off of there. I'm trying to do some spot cleanups since we're not going to be washing these miniatures, or this miniature. Just to make sure we've got some good deep color everywhere. We'll probably stream for another hour or so, so we'll see how far we get in an hour, and then we'll call it a night there. I was up until about 1 o'clock in the morning last night. Yeah, so I said it in the beginning, Brandon, and that's fine. I don't mind it re-answering. This is a Army Painter Regiment brush, so I've got the full line of Army Painter brushes. I do like them. They work well for me as long as you keep them clean. So, and you treat them nicely, they'll do fine. And they're cheap enough that you don't have to. I don't fear messing them up as I would my old Winsor & Newtons that I do own a set of Winsor & Newtons, but I'm just too afraid to use them because they're expensive and I'm afraid I'll mess them up. Alright, let's pull some skin tones out while we wait for some things to dry. And we're going to start fairly dark here with a tanned flesh. Give it a good shake. And I'm going to go ahead and cover over his glasses right now, and what that's going to do is make sure that I don't miss anywhere. We'll come back and touch up his glasses later with a little something else. And for those wondering, I'm trying to do what they would call box art, or you know, I'm trying to make him match what he would look like on a package. So I'm not doing anything fancy. Now the colors may be slightly different shades of like green, but as far as paint design, it's going to be the same as, similar to what's on the Atomic Mass website. So that's what we're going for here. And I was painting his whole face off stream. Good job, Dustin. Alright. While we wait for the face to dry, I do need to go over his belt again. I just remembered that I only ever gave that one coat, so let's get that done. Glad I turned him up. I missed a spot under his hand here. That needs a little green touch-up before it... Not something you'll see in regular play, that's also part of my painting thing is, I'm not painting display pieces here. I'm painting pieces that look good on the table at a little bit above average tabletop quality, or a high tabletop quality. And you can do as much of this specialty work that I'm going to do here in a bit as you would like. You could wash the miniature if you wanted to, and go from there. Perfectly fine, nothing wrong with that. Like I said, I'm using this opportunity as an opportunity to do some learning when it comes to colors and contrast and things like that. So bear with me as I learn with y'all. So get a drink of water real quick. I'll be right back. I'm sure y'all don't want to hear me suck water out of my water bottle, so I wouldn't want to hear me do that. I'm sure y'all don't. Anyways, for the hair, I'm going to throw my paint bottle on the floor, and then I'm going to pick it back up. And bump my table so my camera shakes. Sorry. And I'm going to base coat with dark stone, I think. Because his hair is fairly dark. So we're going to base coat with dark stone, and then we will highlight up from there. Which dark stone's a really dark brown color. You could probably get away with doing an oak brown as well, if you wanted to. That would work also. That's about the different colors between the two. It's not a whole lot, but what I'll do is I'll end up highlighting up with this a little bit, and then probably go up to a leather brown with it. So get some dark stone out of my palette. If you're working with the wet palette, as I am, spread your paints out a little bit first before you start adding water, because it's going to naturally pick up some water through the paper. And then you don't want to thin it down too much on the wet palette because you'll never get it unthinned once it's like that. So, alright, here we go. If you're watching and you haven't already, hit that like and subscribe button. Really helps me out. Helps me know what kind of content you guys like. Helps me know you guys are appreciating the things that I'm doing out there and what you're wanting to see produced. You can also hit the little bell icon, and that will let you know when I post a new video or go live. So, like yesterday, I published a new video on my review of the wet palette that I'm using right now. Honest review. I would never tout a product that I didn't believe in, even if it's from a company that I really do like. I would gratefully decline, or graciously decline, to give them a positive review if they were just looking for something positive. And, you know, I've not used a product made by Army Painter that I've not been at least comfortable using. There are some things that I've used that I've been like, okay, these are good, but I have something that does it better. And then there are some products that I know that I use other things, so I don't use Army Painter primer. I use a different brand of primer. I have Army Painter primer. I have small bottles of it. I may use it for something real quick if I need to brush on a primer real fast. But since I primarily airbrush my primers on, I didn't have a good experience airbrushing their primer out of my airbrush. So your results may vary. Just doing some green touch-up real quick while I'm looking at it. So where I've got my new camera set up is about as close to an eye view that you're going to get. It's literally about 2 inches from my forehead. So I'm having to try to be real conscious not to headbutt it on accident. So we've got our base coats just about to where I want them. And so now I'm just doing a quick once over on the miniature and looking for areas that aren't base coated as cleanly as I want them to be. So, like the top of these boots, it's right along the lip there, need a touch of brown. So if you're going to do this without washing, such as I am on this one, you're going to have to be a little more conscious about your mistakes there. Brendan, a lot of that depends on how wet your palette is. You shouldn't have like a lake of water in there. Your sponge should be damp enough that, like, if you were holding it over a sink, it would drip a little bit. And then you put that in the bottom of the wet palette and then put your paper on top of it. So this one's drying out just a touch because of where it's at. It's up near a fan, so. Thoughts on it? Yeah, so check out my page. I have a whole page on it, but that's what I'm using right now, is the new Army Painter wet palette. I've been using it now for 7 or 8 weeks. Can't remember how long ago I got it. I got an early copy of it to review for my channel. And put out I've got about a 10-minute video on there. It should be the featured video on my channel. So if you get a moment, go check it out. But I use it exclusively now over my old Masterson's brand palette. Nothing wrong with the old one. This one just does more of what I like better. And I just stuck my finger in my flesh tone paint. So that happened. Alright, so I'm going to go down to my Army Painter Wargamer detail brush. and a little bit smaller, and we're going to grab some of this metallic paint, and we're going to hit Doc Ock's hairline where I didn't quite get it all the way down to the skin tone. There's a couple of white spots in there. And then I want to add another layer of skin tone in a couple places. I got a chance to check out the wet palette at Gen Con 2019 while I was there, and I met with some of the Army Painter staff and had a good time talking with them, and they showed me the prototype wet palette, and I was real excited then, and it didn't change at all from the prototype that I saw. The only stuff that I didn't get to see then was the foam and the paper wasn't there, so part of the talks that I had with them was the consistency of the other papers that I'd used. So if you have the Masterson's brand, I've not used the other major paint company palette out there. I think it's Redgrass or something, I don't know. I've never used that. I've used my homemade one, I've used the Masterson's brand. The Masterson's paper is like super thick, and it worked, but it's much thicker than this Army Painter stuff. So, all right, grab some metallic, and I'm going to paint his glasses on after I look at a reference photo to see what it looks like. Are they black or are they metal? Oh, they're black. Okay, so we'll fix that. We'll use an Army Painter Necromancer Cloak for that. It's very dark. You know what, I may actually go a little bit darker than that since I'm not washing. Alright, I have a black that I've custom mixed. It's what I use for a lot of stuff. It has Army Painter Matte Black, some the closest thing I would call it is Necromancer Cloak. It's like in between a Necromancer Cloak and a Matte Black, so if you mix the two 50-50, that's probably where you're going to get. But I just pre-mix it so that I don't have to worry about it. Alright, so glasses. Watch me completely flub this. His arms get right in the way of what I'm trying to show you what I'm painting here. Alright. Got it. His little Doc Ock arms. And that stuff that I have in the bottle is pre-thinned out to just about the consistency I like. So, call it my magic black. It works wonderfully. I think I may have put his earpiece too low on that side, so we may have to fix that. That one's about right, but that one feels a little bit too low. So we'll paint it up a little bit higher, and then we'll come back and make it fixed in a minute once the black dries. And I just got black on the bridge of his nose too, so good thing we have to go back into that skin tone to fix it, because now we've got a lot of black to cover up. So, I make lots of mistakes as I paint, and that's okay, because that's part of painting. So we'll let that dry out for a moment. Area I want to try to get a little bit more black on without going overboard. Alright. I think we got it. Okay. And he's mostly base coated. Just needs some touch up on the face, and those are our dark tones. So let's see if I can fix the side of the eyeglasses, because that should be dry now. There is a very soft ridge where the eyeglass frame is on the side of his face, but it's not well defined on this miniature, unfortunately. And I found that to be the case on a few of the Crisis Protocol miniatures, that some of the details are a little bit soft, and it makes it hard to discern what they are or where they should be. So all in all, they're good, really good models to paint, and I've enjoyed painting them, but hopefully future releases the fine details are a little more well defined. So make a lighting adjustment real quick so that you all can see a little bit better. Really small controlled brush strokes when you're trying to work on a small area like this. I'm not working with a particularly small brush. It is a detail brush, but if I had to equate it to roughly the size, it's probably a size 1 brush roughly. Alright. And then when I was fixing his right eye, I accidentally covered up the little bit of the frame, so we'll go back and fix that real quick. There we go. Alright. So his glasses lenses are red. And we're gonna put a pure red in there. I'm going to go ahead and knock that small detail out right now. Do I go with pure red or do I go with dragon red with a highlight of pure red? Let's do pure red. Highlight up with a white tint. Alright. Drop in a drop of red on that eye. Drop in a drop of red on that eye. There you go. Alright. I keep setting him off the mat. I don't know why. Okay. Trying to decide where I go next. Do I do my yellows? Or do I do my... I think I do my yellow highlights first. because how bright I take my yellows will allow me to take my greens a little bit brighter. So step one is we're gonna get this Daemonic Yellow. Right there. Give it a good shake. Make sure you mix up your yellow paints really well because they don't like to paint as it is. So you want to make sure you have a good mix of pigment. I'll change this music real quick, just because this one's bothering me. Alright, so for my first layer of yellow, I'm going to take this yellow and pull some off to the side, and then I'm going to go grab some of my brown. I'm not really being super careful about mixing the paint right there, and do about a 50-50 blend of it there. I may need to make a little bit more than that, so. You don't want to jump straight into yellow. It just won't look right. So we're going to probably end up doing about 4 or 5 different colors for each color. Now we want to leave the brown in our deepest recesses because brown makes a great shadow for yellow. But we're going to cover just about everything else except the deep recesses. All of our downturn areas are going to get this color as well. So it's really just those crevices that will not be painted yellow. And maybe like right along the edges where it meets stuff, which I guess would be considered a crevice also. So. And it will probably take a couple of coats of this to get it to where I want it, just because yellow. Alright, get a little more water in there. And so when you're working with this washless paint that I'm doing, make sure your paints are thinned well, because if you don't, you're going to get weird funkiness going on like I've got going on. Because I didn't thin it well enough, so there we go. So we're starting to get a little bit of yellow going on there, and you might be able to see it. And then we're going to go onto the gloves. And we're pretty much going to cover almost everything here. Maybe the very bottoms won't get a whole lot of love. And I may have thinned it too much now, so learning experience. I like to be open and frank with my mistakes because I don't want anybody to feel like, oh well, I mess up too much, or I have this happen so I can't paint. Everybody can paint, I promise. If you saw the miniatures I painted 10 years ago for War Machines, my lord, they were terrible. And I'm not liking how this is turning out, so I'm going to rip off all this yellow paint off this arm. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to flood the area with a bunch of water and take an old janky brush that I've got to soak up the water off of it. We'll start over. There we go. Let that section dry real fast. again. I've switched back to using the regiment brush. And I didn't wait long enough, so again, I'm going to take that off. And we'll wait for that section to completely dry. And we'll go down to his boots since it's far enough away that we can work on that. I'm actually going to leave the soles of his boots brown, because I think that makes sense to me in my mind. You don't have to. You can do whatever you want with that. But in my mind, it makes sense for them to be brown. So. And so like right here on the side of his boot, right at the brush tip, there's a recess in the boot that's going to stay brown also, because it's much deeper than any of the other areas around it. And you may not be able to see it real well on there, but I'm not running my brush right up against any of the features on the boot. So I'm leaving a little line of brown around the outside of this paint area that I'm working on. And if you accidentally mess up and take it all the way out to the edge, that's fine. Let it dry, and then go back in with a really fine brush and run a new bead of brown around the edge. I had to do that on my Captain America with the blues. And I'm sure I'll mess it up and do it here too, so. Mistakes are a part of the process, and it's how we learn. Like, I learned that this yellow was way too thin, and so it was just flowing all over the place. Make a little bit more of it up again. It was flowing everywhere. I wish some of these angles I can't get a good angle to show you what I'm painting on that detail there. So I do apologize about that. I do my best to keep y'all in frame here. And I've got a couple spots where I do have to go back and add some brown back because I painted over it on accident. Like I said, you don't have to use this method. You could have base coated in the colors that you wanted it to be, and then just added a wash over it, and then come back and done some select highlighting. I do that in many of my other videos, so I wanted to take the opportunity to show some alternative options to painting for those that may be interested in trying something new. So I've had a lot of fun doing it this way over the last couple miniatures, and felt like I got enough practice in to be able to do it effectively on stream. But like I said, I'm going to have to go back and touch up some of this brown. But see how it's starting to look yellowish? So if I added another coat on this belt buckle, you'd really start to notice just how yellow he's starting to turn compared to that brown. Which, since I did one, I'm going to go finish the belt buckle now. I get distracted painting and jump around from areas somewhat. So, don't be like me. Focus on one piece at a time. This process is somewhat time consuming, so if you're trying to rush something to the table, I wouldn't recommend it. But you do get some really nice results out of it, based on the amount of time you want to put into it. Alright, we're going to go over to the other boot. These arm tentacle things do make it a little bit tough to work on certain parts of this miniature, so you could not apply them to the miniature before painting. That's an option you have too. I did not do that. Don't ask me why, normally I do. If you've seen any of my other videos, you know that I don't usually stick arms and stuff on. I think I was excited to get these together, and I did need him to play a game with my son, even though he was unpainted. So that's why I ended up putting them together. And these miniatures do not press fit well, so they do require they be glued together in order to stay together. And they are hard plastic, so I use a liquid cement, extra thin liquid cement to glue them together, which actually causes a chemical reaction to the plastic to soften and ends up bonding together by plastic. It's a plastic on plastic bond rather than like an adhesive, and the two pieces join and become one. So the only downside to that is if you ever need to take it apart again, yeah, it's not happening. So you're not going to be able to take them apart again. So keep that in mind. Not like super glue. You probably could use super glue on these. And I just went and touched everything with my big yellow brush, so it's okay. Painting yellow. Excuse me. I dislike painting yellow, but it's something that needs to be done for this miniature. I think I need to move my camera angle just a touch before the next one, because I keep trying to paint beyond it. spots on this left boot. It's important to let your paint dry completely in between trying to add more to it doing this, because if you try to put wet paint on top of wet paint, what ends up happening is you end up taking paint off. So if you start painting and you see it start to look like it's actually removing paint, which it might sound like that's hard to tell, but you'll know when it does, because you'll start seeing the underneath color shine through some more. Stop. Just let it dry. You can paint back over it again. So you want to make sure it's all the way dry before you start trying to paint over it some more. And there I go, shoving my big hands out of scene again. Alright, we'll let those boots dry. And then we'll go try these gloves again. Third time's a charm, right? Yep, much better. I just had my paint way too thin down the first couple passes I tried to make. So, I'm going to go to my smaller brush because we're going to try to do some real fine yellow-brown lines right here. I may have to get some more leather brown out of my ball, just because I'm running out. He's got little lines on his arms that we're trying to accentuate with this yellow, so that's what I'm doing. That's why I'm using a bit smaller brush than normal. And then we're just going to paint this whole hand yellow. There's not many real deep creases that we need to worry about, so, but we do want to leave a brown line between where the arms are crossed and where the hand meets the wrist band thing. So by leaving that nice darker brown, we'll get a nice line between the two different gloves. Otherwise they'll just kind of blend together. We don't want that. Then he has arm blob. Arm blob bad. I am painting this whole band yellow because it's up towards the top. One quick trick to have your miniatures look better is to put some little bit brighter colors up near the face area, the focal point that you want your miniature to have. So if that's the face, then do that. Depending on what you're working on, it could be different things, which generally means your highlights are going to be just a touch brighter in that area. So I'm actually just going to go ahead and paint this whole glove, except for the very part yellow, and that'll let us have some higher highlights. And then this other hand, we'll leave a brown line between the glove, and we'll add some yellow in there. We'll pick out some of this yellow out of the recesses. We're going to let that dry for a minute. I don't know. Stretch my back for a second, get some water. Give me a moment. onto the shoulder pads. And then what we'll end up doing after that is we're going to go with a little bit brighter yellow, and we'll do another layer of yellows. So, and the shoulder pads are going to be fairly bright, so don't worry about leaving too much. How did that happen? Don't worry about leaving too much brown on there, because they're right up by the face. We want to accentuate and draw your eyes to the face. So naturally your eyes are going to draw towards the areas that are brighter than others. So I'll probably end up just base coating this whole thing this color. And then, except for maybe some of the very deepest areas. And we'll get back on stream again. So like right down here in the chest, I'm not going to go all the way down in there. Make sure to get up on the top of that collar on the back on anything that you're painting like this, because it's a really easy spot to miss, but it really does stand out like a sore thumb if you don't get it painted right. So be careful of that. Most things like this have some form of collar around their neck, humanoid type characters, and you really want to make sure that you've not inadvertently missed that area. So right, this right boot needs a little more love, and then we'll be ready to move on to a next brighter shade of yellow. Alrighty. Clean your brush real well, and then grab almost some pure yellow this time, of that Daemonic Yellow, and thin it out just a touch. And we're going to focus on a little bit higher areas on this one. So like and you want to make sure this is thin, because you're going to might have to do some feathering, which is a good way to blend if you don't want to do wet blending. And so what I do for that is I clean my brush out, get some water on it, and then I drag the paint out to the area, and it kind of blends and makes a transition area. So we're going to focus more on areas that are facing upwards or parallel or perpendicular, but we're going to leave most things that are towards the ground alone now. So as I go off camera again, I'm really good at painting off camera. It's a skill I have. And we're getting more yellow looking there. Alright, onto this other boot. And we're trying to do just a little bit smaller area than what we did with that initial yellow color. So leaving more of that yellow brown in certain areas. I'm going to switch to my detail brush. Fine lines in between here to leave those shadows. And don't try to cover all in one go on this. Again, especially with yellow, man. Yellows are just rough. I don't enjoy painting yellows. I don't enjoy painting yellows. If you're late to joining the stream, I do appreciate you stopping by. Glad to have you here. I'm not sure how many of you have been here and how long you've all been here. Say something, say hi in the chat if you feel like it. I love to interact with my viewers. I'll talk with y'all. I'll answer any question I can. And if I don't know the answer, I'll give you some made-up answer. How's that sound? About life, the universe, and everything. Alright, grab the top corner of this boot for a highlight. As I do that off stream, so I'm telling you about this fine detail work I'm doing, and ta-da, I do it off stream again. I really need to adjust this camera angle for the next stream because it's in a really inconvenient spot. I still want to give you the same like top-down view better than it was in the past, so I just need to push it slightly forward because that's where when I'm bracing my elbows on the paint table, they naturally want to push forward that way, so we'll get it though. I didn't want to mess with it while I'm streaming because it really could make you motion sick with how much the camera bobbles around. So, and that's never fun. I've seen people who have bouncy cameras and it's not ideal by far. So this yellow is going to take, like I said, quite a few passes to get it to where I want it to be. And that's the nature of working with yellow. Don't forget to leave some of those interior or colors alone because they're not going to be, shouldn't be super highlighted. Okay, getting there on that boot. I'm going to go back up here and touch up the belt again, since that's the two places I'm working on that gives the boot a chance to dry. feather the yellow around a little bit. Okay. Let's go to the other boot. If you've watched any of my other streams, let me know what you think of the new camera angle as compared to the old one. It is slightly different. Let me know if the sound's better. I know that's a common issue I had heard from patrons before. Was that my mic was too quiet. So after some help from one of you all tonight, I was able to get that diagnosed a little bit better. I know I'm off stream again. I was doing that on purpose because I really needed to brace my elbows for that part. I was doing the back of the heel. Painting boots, 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 boots and socks and boots and socks. I'd love to see the paint projects y'all are working on. You can post them over on my page in the comments on any of the comments for this video over on my Facebook page, and I would love to see them. Especially if you're working with any of the guides that I have produced on my channel. I've got a lot of Legion stuff. I have some fantasy themed stuff, like a Dungeon Doggies paint guide. On doing some of those. If you follow those, I did a bunch of those for a customer at one point. They were a ton of fun, very unique miniatures to paint. Dogs seemed like some of the adventurer classes from Dungeons and Dragons, so a lot of fun there. I don't remember all of the ones that I did on stream over there, or yeah. So I'm probably going to finish up this boot, and then we'll call it a night from there. You get the general idea. What I would do as far as finishing highlighting these is going to be, I'm going to do one more coat of the yellow. I'm not going to do it tonight. I've got to head to bed here in a minute. But one more coat of this pure yellow, and then we'll do a 50-50 mix of Babe Blonde and the Demon Yellow. And that's going to be used almost everywhere, or excuse me, used over all of the extreme highlights, and focus more on some of the areas that I want to get brighter. And then after that we would go with a pure Babe Blonde for some really extreme highlighting. And then even one step further than that on this yellow, especially because their comic books are really trying to push some of the contrast here. And for those not familiar with that term contrast, it's your lights versus your shadows. So you want to have really bright colors on comic book style stuff. I'm not doing the black lines comic book style stuff. There are some great painters out there that are doing that stuff. You can look them up, but I don't like the black line look on my stuff. Blacklining Spider-Man was torture because his uniform requires black lines, or his costume, outfit, whatever they call it. So I would probably I'm going to go over this all before I finish this base. I would go over all of this yellow again on both boots to get it to where I want it to be yellow-wise, and then I would, like I said, I'm going to apply some demon hide. So, but I do need to get to bed here in just a minute. So it's been a ton of fun streaming with y'all. I am glad to be back on the air, whatever they call it, be back with y'all, really, because I do this for you guys. I don't make anything to do this. I don't make anything off YouTube. I'm not at that level yet. There are some painters that are well established out there that I'm sure make a living doing this. I do not. I have a day job, and so I do this as a hobby in my free time because I want to help people learn how to paint the things that interest them. So if that's the same thing that interests me, great. For instance, I have a board game I love called Kingdom Death Monster. It's one of my favorite things on the planet. I love painting those miniatures for that. I did a paint guide on one of the models from that game. So I see something interesting and I say, you know what, I'll do a video on that. So alright, it's not looking like much yet, but you should be able to see the difference between where we're at with the yellow on the boots versus the gloves and shoulder pads. So that's where we're going to leave off for tonight. And just to give you an idea of where we're at, this is where we're going to leave off for tonight. It's been wonderful having you around. Let you see a back shot of where we're at. 360 view, slowly with my rattly paint handle. So, if I get around to it, I will stream tomorrow night. I'm not going to finish this guy off stream. I want to finish this on stream, so there will be a part 2 to the How to Paint Doc Ock, and then we'll finish him up on the second stream. So, thanks for hanging out with me tonight. It's been a blast. I am going to get this music paused real fast. And I'll catch you all later. Hope you all have a good night. And best of luck to you. Get out there and, like, as always, get out there and put some paint on some more minis. It's a ton of fun. Show your appreciation by hitting the like button. You can subscribe by hitting the logo in the center of their screen to see all the new stuff as it comes out. Find me on social media at xxnerford or xx for Twitter. Facebook, Jagged Brush Studios. To see the next video, hit the video on the left. To see the newest upload, hit the video on the right. And I hope you enjoyed. Get out there and paint some more.